My main employment is a special needs school, and I do respite care, 2 to 3 to 4 cleaning positions, nighttime cleaning job, plus grandchildren that I have to pick up and drop off, and pretty busy life.
If you're a regular viewer, and thanks by the way, you might have noticed a theme.
Inflation, housing,
seemingly inescapable grocery prices.
cost of living, it's all going up.
Everything is more expensive, and that means we need more of this. And the worry is more and more people might be forced to get a second job.
The key difference between this group and full-time workers who don't want more hours was earnings.
I sort of got a bit of a fright when I rang my mortgage broker, and she pretty much said the payments would double, and oh my goodness, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay that on top of everything else going up? So really, the only thing I can do is work after hours.
So the stats on that show that around 7% of workers hold multiple jobs.
That's pretty much the same as it was in 2019, but ask around and it seems like more people are on the hustle for extra work.
And typically we assume this is going to be only part-time workers, so those working less than 30 hours a week. But we found that around 5% of full-time workers also reported they wanted more hours.
We are getting more and more people sort of inquiring about sort of part-time hours, weekend work, night shift work. So the trend is definitely growing.
Sure, a second job may ease the financial stress, but that could mean a lot more life stress piled right on top of you.
People are really struggling, and there's only so many hours in a day that you can work. You do need to sleep somewhere along the line.
Joining us now is Massey University's Jared Ha. Jared, what are you hearing out there? Are people looking around for extra work?
Yeah, I think this is just the sign of the times. The cost of living is so high. People who are struggling on their first job are now having to look to pick up a second job. And of course, that's quite a complicated thing because juggling 2 jobs, even if the second one's only 10 hours, maybe it's 20 hours, that's hard work on top of a full-time job.
Yeah, I guess people would look at it and go, oh, a bit of extra money, that's a good thing. What do you see as the bad things about a second job?
Well, I think the trouble at the moment is your second job is going to go to pay the groceries, the utility bills, and either the rent or the mortgage. So it's not even like you're working an extra job and earning some money to save for a vacation or save to buy something that you really need. It's just really a cost of living kind of crisis there, and being able to survive. And I think that's the challenge for people, right? Is, you're working so much just to live, and people are going to get exhausted faster.
Yeah, it seems like a short-term solution. How sustainable is it for someone to have multiple jobs?
I do think people will be thinking it's short term, but already, you kind of get the feeling that things could carry on for another 6 months. And if you're doing, a whole full-time job plus another one, I think that really will be sustainable for no more than, maybe the rest of the year. And then people will just be exhausted. And then you'll probably be unable to do both jobs.
So, Jared, how will it affect your first job?
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, because what happens is, especially if you're in, complicated places like Auckland, no one ever gets a job next door, right? It's never next door to your house or next door to your current job. I have to travel there, and so you have to factor in this kind of long traffic time in Auckland. So then I'm travelling longer, I'm working more hours, I get tired, I come to work and I'm not feeling my best, I am a bit tired and exhausted, and so I start to underperform in the first job while probably just doing an okay job in the second one. So definitely going to have an effect on the first job over time. We might pull it off for 3 to 6 months, but if you're doing it for the whole year, I suspect it's going to physically hurt you, and that will impact your job.
So what alternatives are there?
It's very easy for people to say, oh, you just need to reduce your costs. But those people on minimum wage, even and we used to promote New Zealand as a low-wage economy. Well, this is what happens. Even with all the minimum wage rises, which have been good for those low-paid workers, we still don't earn enough money. And maybe you're going to have to get a flatmate in or something like that, just to help you cover the cost, probably for the rest of the year, but maybe no longer.
Jared, thanks so much for your thoughts.
Kia ora, you're welcome.
And welcome along to the project, everyone. Look, Isabel Ewing is here. Great to have you in. Newshub's climate correspondent. I think that's your only job at the moment.
Oh, there might be a couple of others, but only under one umbrella. I have to say, with this story, I feel so lucky that I'm able to walk to work at my job at Newshub. It takes me 5 minutes, and I'm so grateful for the privilege that is, of how much that gives me back of my day. To not only have to commute 30 to 40 to an hour to work, but then also have to juggle the logistics of 2 jobs and then maybe throwing in a school drop-off in there as well, and daycare, managing the bus. I mean, you can't always catch the bus because there's cancellations, you know.
So when someone says a second job of 10 hours, it's not just 10 hours, is it?
No.
It's all that time on either side.
No.
But what gets me is we're not talking about beneficiaries here, who we have talked about in the past and the struggles they have. We're not talking about people on minimum wage. I mean, Marcia, who we spoke to, has a decent job, and for most of human history, that's been enough to provide for yourself and your family, but she has no choice but to go out and look for something else in her downtime.
Yeah, I know. The advice just keeps being like, oh, maybe you should cut some costs. I think there are probably a lot of New Zealanders who are screaming at the TV now, what am I supposed to cut? I've cut it all.
Which vegetables are the cheap ones?
Yeah.
Which meat is the cheap meat? I know, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm not even doing one job.
No, you don't.